Oh, well, hello there. How's everybody doing? Saturday morning. I'm actually off to coach flag football, 8-9-year-old league. I am the Sean Payton of my son's team. So in my stead, DPZ has got this video coming out, and before he loses his mind on most of the hobby and all of the hobby norms that you're all used to, before you are completely taken aback, we've got to talk about SlabMags. SlabMags, 10% off. You've got nice cards, but you don't have any protection for them outside of your slab that doesn't have any UV protection or maybe very little UV protection. So the SlabMag displays like a beast and then offers you UV protection for autographs and nice surfaces like gold prisms, for example. Sports Card Dad code at checkout is 10% off the entire order, guys. Don't miss out. Like I said, not necessarily for every card in the collection, but for, the handful, the 10 cards that are just, you've spent a fair amount of money on them, protect them with a SlabMag. Don't play around with it. All right, Frank, fire up the DPZ episode. And Drake, yeah, the Pick 6, we talked about this. Roll it. Dude.
Welcome, friends, to another episode of the Pick 6 podcast, episode number 5. I am DPZ, and I'm here with my good friend Drake Magruder at Drakes_PC. How are you doing, Drake?
Dennis, I'm fantastic. Good to see you. Hard to believe it's episode number 5. You mentioned you were going to have some spicy takes tonight, so I brought out the Razorback Spicy Margarita Cup tonight. It's actually a big day in Razorback land. We lost our basketball coach Musselman to USC, so there's all the rumors. People are tracking airplanes and wondering who the next coach is going to be, and that whole sort of thing. So it's plane tracking season in Arkansas.
Well, you stole my quarterback from Boise State and Taylor Green, so you know what? I don't feel too bad for you for losing your coach because you're taking my quarterback.
Well, he is. From what they're saying, he's QB1 that's coming out of spring practice. We're working with Bobby Petrino. So,
that's pretty cool. He was pretty good. Saw him live a couple times last year in Boise. He's a good quarterback, but then we also snagged a USC quarterback too. So it all comes around in a big circle there, I see. So, but we didn't come here to talk about Razorback football, basketball, or Boise State baseball or football or basketball. What we did come to talk about was cards, and we came to talk about card topics. I came to talk about a lot of things, and maybe we'll save that stuff to the end because I have some things I need to say, and then I'll definitely say them then. But why don't you kick us off, Drake? What do you got? I mean, is there anything we want to talk about first?
Well, yeah, just kind of a few things. It's Final Four season, right? So, we can't get out of here without talking our Final Four picks, right? We've got, a few teams in Purdue and UConn that are the favorites and all that. And then we've got North Carolina State and Alabama, of all teams, in the Final Four. So you going with the chalk, you picking upsets. What do you say?
I don't know. I like Purdue. I think Purdue's got a strong team. I haven't been following it as closely as I normally would. I'm a big Zags guy, so I kind of go when Gonzaga goes. So
there you go. Yeah. Well, which I'm kind of the same way since the Razorbacks weren't in the tournament this year, right? It's been hard to follow as much, but our claim to fame this year is we beat Purdue in an exhibition game. So I'm like, if the 15 and 16 Arkansas Razorbacks can beat Purdue, I'm definitely going to take, if it's a UConn and Purdue matchup, I'm going with the Huskies. So that's my pick to win the title, which I know is everybody in America, is picking them to win the title. So I'm kind of going with chalk, but, sometimes you just have to go with kind of where you think. So I think they're going to shut down Zach Edey, and I think they're going to focus on him and say, hey, we're going to take him out of the game and let somebody else beat us. And I don't know if Purdue has another somebody else that can match up with the multiple pieces of firepower with UConn. So we'll see. It's exciting.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, we will. So it should be an exciting weekend. It's an exciting weekend in Arkansas. We've got the total eclipse coming through here, the solar eclipse thing. So we're doing that with the family. It's a once in a lifetime thing that it passes through Arkansas. So so we're excited to see that. So, it should be an exciting weekend of basketball and solar eclipses. That's probably the first time those two things have ever been placed together. But that's what we're doing.
And you get two hobbyists that are from like very distinct, weird areas, Seattle and Arkansas. talking about sports cards and eclipses and March Madness basketball. I mean, the hobby doesn't get any more eccentric than that. The weird locations we all live in and how we pair up somehow and get along with people so well from like the most different places. I mean, it's just very, to me, that's kind of cool. That might be the only positive thing I say today, but that's very cool. I like.
Yeah, well, it's cool with the hobby too. It's social media, right? I've connected with people. There's a guy I know who collects wrestling cards. He's in Australia. I've connected with guys that live in England, right? And if it weren't for the hobby and if it weren't for social media, I wouldn't talk to any of these guys. But it's folks I talk to like on a regular basis about the hobby. So it's interesting how things you get into different areas of the world, and it's different time zones and that whole sort of thing, but it's cool. And you talked about different areas of the country. For folks that remember from episode 4, I was actually in Elmira, New York last week, and we had a little trivia question, right? What running back came from Elmira, New York, and we had 2 people get it right. It was Malia Chapman, 7162, and Tom Feige, I guess we'll call him, Feige 8550, who correctly guessed it was the Elmira Express Ernie Davis. So great job, nice. You guys, on picking that. So anyways, went to Syracuse, and he was drafted by the Browns, I believe that's right. But unfortunately, he never played pro because he got sick and passed away very untimely. So anyways, there's a lot in that city around Ernie Davis, school named after him, a lot of people go there to visit his gravesite and that whole sort of thing and stuff. So anyways, so no trivia this week. I will be traveling next week, so keep everybody on their toes with where I'm going. But so anyways,
got it.
But no, before we get into the topics, right? We had a request from a viewer a couple weeks ago, and we started it last week. But show off a card, right? So did you bring any cards tonight to show off?
I you know what? I don't have them on me. I did go to my wife and I went on a 2-day excursion over to the peninsula of Washington State. I went to this random antique store, and on the outside it said collectibles as well. And I'm like, interesting. What does that mean? From an antique store carrying collectibles. You never know. I mean, sometimes they do. So I wandered in there. My wife found a really cool seashell that she liked, and I found boxes and boxes of singles, like dollar box singles, right? A bunch of them in top loaders, and I'm like, interesting. There were a few of those big fat slabs of screw downs with an old Mickey Mantle sitting in it that looked like it had been chewed up by a dog, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go there. But I thumbed through the dollar boxes, and I found a handful of cool cards. I got Tony Kukoc, Scottie Pippen, and Stephon Marbury, I believe 98 Flair showcases, not legacy, but they're still beautiful in hand, showcases raw. Grab those for like $2 a piece. I snagged a handful of these cool hologram Michael Jordans from Upper Deck for like $5 a piece, about 5 or 6 of those. They're pretty cool. A couple David Robinsons, one of the SPX, so they're like die cuts. They have like a little hologram in the bottom, and I forget the name of them. Someone out there will know it. I snagged one of those with D-Rob, and I also snagged a D-Rob hologram card. Super cool. And people probably see I don't have a lot of D-Robs left. I just have the PMG. I've sold everything else off that are big, but I'm still buying his smaller cards. So I want to collect those cards. I want to collect the cards that are appealing to me and cool to me, maybe raw, lower grade. But the cool cards that are neat, and the cheaper cards, because, well, we'll talk about this later. But, I'm kind of going in that direction with those cards. But yeah, that was fun pulling out a bunch of, Michael Finley, Topps Gold Label. These things look beautiful in hand, right? And they're just like $2 a piece. A couple of like Ken Griffey Jr.'s, a Feature Reacher card. I don't think I'm going to grade any of them, but they were pretty sweet. And it's kind of fun walking out of there with a bunch of those. I gave a couple of them to one of my daughter, or a couple to my daughter, or a couple to my son. And I kept all the Jordans and put them in the one touches. And that was, to me, that was a blast. Sitting there thumbing through another guy came in, and he was looking at them too, and we were talking hobby, and he's like, yeah, this guy comes in and replenishes these like every other week, and I don't even know where he gets them all, but they're like amazing cards. So there's sometimes you can get a good deal. So it's kind of like digging for treasure. A lot of fun. Yeah,
that's great. I mean, that's part of the fun, is like finding those treasures, like you said. And And you mentioned the mid '90s and stuff. Those just even the base cards had great designs and just really cool. And it's neat to me as I the PMGs and the credentials and all that stuff gets a lot of the attention and things like that. But there's certain cards in the '90s that just had, from a nostalgia standpoint, even though it's not something I actively collect right now, just seeing the cards, it takes me back to the days of Flair and just remembering when as a kid you really wanted to buy Flair or anything because that was just the coolest set ever. I mean, that was high end at the time. And so and the base cards just look so cool. So anyways, but that's great.
How about you?
So I grabbed a couple cards. It's WrestleMania 40 weekend this weekend. And so I had to grab some wrestling cards, right? This is the Super Bowl of wrestling. And so the main event on night one is The Rock and Roman Reigns against Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. So I've grabbed my Rock and Roman Reigns card. So the first card I have is actually The Rock. And if you can see right here, so this is the Rock 5 Timers Club Superfractor, 1 of 1 in a PSA 10. I'm a Topps Chrome guy. I love the Superfractors. And as I've told a lot of people, this looks like a poster you'd have on your wall as a kid, right?
No kidding.
Have this,
that's cool.
Looks like that. So it's an insert set, something they only did in 2021. I know that Brett McGrath and I are really big fans of the 5 Timers Club. There's a lot of folks that have the 5 Timers Club, but I think, you get nostalgia for seeing The Rock and seeing that pose, but I also think it's sweet just because it has that poster look to it that you'd have on your wall as a kid. So anyways, that's that one. And then his tag team partner, the Tribal Chief, another Superfractor. This is 2014 Topps Chrome WB Superfractor Auto 1 of 1. I've shared this on my page a lot. There's been a lot of discussion about when I purchased this card. This was actually the first public sale of a over 5 figures of a modern wrestling card. And then that kind of launched us into the Panini era of cards and that sort of thing. But this is one of my favorite cards in my collection. I always get lots of inquiries about it, but the Tribal Chief is staying put at home. So anyways, I'm excited for WrestleMania this weekend. I'm hoping that Roman Reigns retains against Cody Rhodes and the Cody Crybabies and holds up that one because he's the one. So anyway.
Nice. Very cool cards. Thanks for sharing them.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
for sure.
While we're talking about, you talk about Brett McGrath. I'd love to give a shout out, unsolicited shout out to his Stacking Slabs podcast, a terrific podcast, a great one to listen to. Also, he's doing a show with Nick from Wharf Sports Cards on the No Recent Comps, which is a great community that both Drake and I belong to and are excited about. Nick's one of the good guys in the hobby, and Brett and him have this episode. It's really well done. It's a great episode, a great show that they do, talking through the cards that are for sale, the stories behind the cards. They pick some out, very collector focused, a lot of fun to listen to learn about cards. You don't have to buy them. I know a lot of times people are well, don't get so. Yeah, just listen and learn about cards. It's fun to learn about the different sets, the different players. We don't have to buy all of them. I'm guilty of that myself, just buying stuff by emotion sometimes. But it's a great episode, a great show to watch, and a great way to learn about cards and sets. So there you go, little shout out to Brett and Nick.
Yeah. So and I will echo your sentiments. So Brett and Nick, I probably talk to them as much as I do anybody in the hobby, but Brett and I collect in a similar manner with Peyton Manning and wrestling cards. And so we're always bouncing things off of each other and that whole sort of thing. And he was actually hosting a live stream for his Patreon. And right before we hopped on to record tonight, I was actually listening to his monthly live stream with the members and things like that. So Brett's churning out more content than he ever has, and it's all awesome. So encourage everybody to check that out too.
This is really good. Really, really good. So cool.
All right. So let's get on to the topics. And before we get to the one that just burning inside DPZ to talk about, we actually had a topic suggestion from a viewer. And this is from @football_card_dude12. And he asked, will 90s cards retain value over time? He said they're so niche and require kids to study the sets. So what do you think?
I think when you look at card sets and the durability of the brand, long-term success of the card or the set or the time period of cards, it all comes down to the demographic. So as long as you and me are alive, yes, because those are the cards that matter to us. As soon as you and I are gone, all bets are off. And I think that goes for a lot of cards. So I think that in the future, like the cards that will come around in the next boom are going to be cards that are popular right now, that are modern, that are, the golds, the prism golds, or things of that nature will be popular later. But as far as the 90s, I think they're going to carry a value to everybody that cares about them right now, like me. Like I'm still buying 97. I bought 3 cards this morning. 96 finest gold refractors, the Kobe rookie, but like a John Stockton, I bought Sean Kemp raw, John Stockton raw, and a Reggie Miller raw. And I'm trying to get a Garnett raw. I might just keep them raw because they're such cool cards. So I'm going to keep buying those kinds of cards. I'm going to keep caring about those kinds of cards. So yes, those will last for me. And I think there's a lot of people that like them and will continue to buy them. Now, once I'm gone and once you're gone and our kids are growing up and collecting, will they become like the vintage cards that we see today, where we didn't care as much about them when we were younger, but we were only caring about the cards we liked, 90s cards? And will they still hold that? I think select players. I think Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, I wouldn't even say all your Hall of Famers. I think certain players will probably carry, because those cards are very unique and rare for those particular players. And a lot of those players had a lot of their rookie cards during the 80s and the junk wax era. So unless you're buying a Topps Tiffany or a glossy or some sort of a more rare version of the card, O-Peachy, whatever it may be, you're going to be looking for the more rare cards of that particular player. They're going to be in the 90s, and those 90s sets, those iconic sets. So yes, I think some players will transcend, and a lot of them might not. Like, will my John Stockton? No, probably not. I think a lot of the cards I have are probably going to be fun to me. And then later on, I was a Hall of Famer, but there's a lot of Hall of Famers that have vintage cards that aren't worth a ton, right? So I think it's going to all come down to the player and their brand and the hobby relevance, and like way off into the future. But like as long as for the next 20 years, I think so. You're fine.
Yeah. It's certainly an interesting topic to talk about and discuss. There's a lot to unpack with it. So, one of the things that comes to mind is I was playing basketball in our neighborhood the other day with my son, and he's 11, and we were having an argument over who's the best basketball player, right? And I'm trying to convince him that Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James and all that. And he's like, Dad, no, yeah. LeBron's the guy. He's the best, and this, that, and the other. But he's never seen Michael Jordan. He knows who he is, but he's never seen him play, and that whole sort of thing. And so, I just wonder, is kind of my 11-year-old son being a test case, let's just say, he knows Steph Curry and he knows Luka and he knows, a lot of the more, like Patrick Mahomes and more of the right now players. And is that going to be who kids these days, gravitate to when they have money, real money to spend on cards, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and kind of the situation that we're in now. And then we have a lot of nostalgia for who we grew up with in the 90s. And so it certainly makes you wonder on that side of things. The second thing is when you look at a site like a Card Ladder, and I've talked to people about this before, a lot of those 90s players are retired. And when you look at what they were selling for, say in the late 20 teens, so say 2016, 17, 18, stuff like that, then you see what they're selling for now. And there's these huge numbers, right? It really makes you wonder of, what's really the true value, right? Because essentially everything has gone up. Some things have settled back down and that whole sort of thing. And so, it's a great point about retaining value of, we've seen lots of cards go down to, pre-COVID levels and things like that. We've seen some things maintain, some have increased since COVID. It just depends on the card, depends on the player. and things like that. But, it does make me wonder as far as what's going to retain value over time. Again, as I mentioned before, I'll mention always that's not why I collect, but it does give you some pause as far as is the value that I would pay for this card today, is it more likely to go up over time, or is it more likely to go back down to what it was in, say, 2017 and 2018, right? And then the last thing I'll say too is, a lot of people collect Mickey Mantle and Ted Williams and Babe Ruth and George Mikan or Wilt Chamberlain or something like that, and they never watched them play the game, right? And so it kind of goes back to a question we had on a previous episode as far as what drives value of the of the cards. Is it the set they're in? Is it the performance? Is it the design? What exactly drives the value? And so there's a lot to dissect there, but I certainly think it's a great question and certainly things to think about. And then as Football Card Dude 12 mentions right there, in some of those sets, you do have to do a lot of research and a lot of digging to truly understand what's rare and what's scarce, and why it has value, and why a card such as the PMG red, PMG greens that no one cared about when they came out are now some of the most coveted cards that you can find in the hobby. And so it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I fell victim to it. I bought a PMG. I didn't care about PMGs when I first started collecting. I didn't even know about them when I was younger. I don't even know why I have that card, to be honest. That's a whole other topic, though.
It is that. Speaking of other topics, we are going to go into DPZ's topic, and I'm going to let you have the floor a little bit on this one. But I think what you want to discuss is around hobby etiquette, and I think we'll kind of dissect some things and maybe ask some questions about this. So looking forward to this discussion. So the floor is yours, DPZ.
Okay, thanks, Drake. So I think hobby etiquette, for the most part, is good. I think it's good to be good. It's good to do the right thing. I feel like sometimes we're under pressure to do certain things in this hobby. As recent as of yesterday, where I was looking at a certain card that I wanted to get and get back in my collection, and I think I made an offer at one point. Person didn't want to take it. Fine, no big deal. Looked at it again, wanted to make another offer because there's one of just only two of them available right now. So I made an offer for that card. Or I reached out to the seller, or they made an offer to me. They knocked off some money on eBay, and I was like, all right, well, would you come down to here? And they're like, no, but if I can clear here, I'd be happy. Okay, let's do that. Deal. They wanted to take it offline. I don't know about that, man. Already been down this road. And I'm like, you know what? Is it somewhere else? Yeah, it is. Okay, let's go there. Let's just do this. Here's my other way of paying. Let's go there. All right. And then I start looking at the card more closely. Probably more recently, when I look at PSA 10s, not all PSA 10s are the same. So I'm trying to find a more centered copy. And I've noticed that some of them in the past have sold that are more centered for the same price I'm going to be paying for this card. I just didn't, this is not as centered as I'd like it to be. I'm not interested in the card anymore. So the person's like, well, let me know right away, or let me know as soon as possible if you want to continue with this purchase or not. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pass. And then they started getting, why would you do that? Like, honestly, I just don't, the centering's just not there for me. It's the truth. Centering's not there for me. They got upset. Well, you've been looking at this card for so long. Why? All this stuff. I just blocked that person on Instagram. I blocked him because I didn't want to deal with any more drama. I was sick of drama. If that person had walked in my shoes for the past 5 days and the crap I've been dealing with, you just block anybody who wants to fight you or argue with you about anything card related. I'm just done. Probably a hasty thing to do, but you know what? I don't really care what anybody thinks, whether it's hasty or not. Just don't care, because I'm tired of caring about that. I'm tired of worrying about that. I'm tired of always worrying about that. Oh, what's this person going to think? I don't want to make that person upset. These are people I don't know. These random people I don't know. I respect a handful of people in this hobby space. I definitely respect Dustin. Respect you, Drake. I'm on Dustin's channel, so I respect him. And I want to make sure I'm acting professionally and accordingly because this is his channel. I respect you, Drake, because you share the mic with me. and that reflects on you. So I'm trying to be mindful of all that. But I also feel like, sometimes it's okay to let this kind of stuff out, because we have a lot of people that love to stand on the soapbox. This is how it should be. These people are bad. Don't get me wrong. Some of these people are bad, but this is how it should be. But you know what? What about one of these situations like this? It was within 2 hours. That person apparently had already spent the money or some other garbage, and yet I'm on the hook for it now. I ended up buying the card. I was like, fine. You're out the money, whatever. But spare me the flipping lecture. I don't need to hear it. I don't need to hear your lecture. I shared the message with Drake. He saw it. Okay. It's one thing if we've made an agreement, and it's been a couple days, and there's been some time to think about. No, this is within like a day. This is within like 3 hours, and you're telling me that you sold your house, you bought a new car, you took the money, you've already done. I mean, get a life. That's not my responsibility. Until the money's in my bank account, I'm not spending it. Ultimately, that's how it should be. So this whole etiquette thing, I got layered on once again. So it's just a hobby etiquette thing started boiling to the surface for me. So for those of you out there that feel like, if you agree and you say yes, even if it's going to kill you, even if your life's going to go downhill if you make that purchase, for whatever reason, who cares? Who is telling us to do that? I understand you pay for your bids when you bid on something. That's a different story. You're bidding on something. You're actively going, yep. When you're working out a deal privately, I think within a day or a reasonable amount of time, it's okay to change your mind without having this, you better not do this because this is not the right thing to do, garbage thrown back in your face. I think it's garbage. And I'm sick and tired of people in this hobby thinking that they get to do that and stand on their high moral ground. How many of them are doing the same thing, though? That's what I want to know. Everybody acting in perfect accordance? Oh, we're all doing it just right? Are we really, though? How many of those situations have you skirted on? How many times have you changed your mind? You know how many people changed their mind on purchasing a card from me? A lot. Do I drag them through the mud? No, I don't. Okay, I'll just send it to PWCC then. No big deal. No big deal. It's life. I get over it. I move on. But of course, that's not the way. That's how I've been dealing with. That's not what I've been dealing with lately. So, not everybody's like that. I know not everybody's like that, but there are enough people that are like that, and there's a lot of people out here virtue signaling, and it's annoying. I'm tired of watching it. I'm tired of listening to it. I don't want to be a part of some Facebook. I don't want to be part of any of these groups anymore. I don't. Like, there's a part of me that wants to be private with it. I mean, I'm talking on the shows and stuff like that now, so I feel like, well, I'll try to be careful, but I'm almost wish I didn't share the cards I owned, because I got thrown back in my face too. Look at all these cards you own. Maybe I should take those suckers down. Maybe that's my own fault. I shouldn't have put them out there. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about what I'm buying. Maybe I shouldn't be sharing what I'm buying or sharing what I paid or any of that kind of stuff. Maybe I should just lock it down. That's kind of where I'm at. I feel like, and you said, and something, I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I won't use his name either because I'm not using any names here. And if you know who you are, I don't really care. I don't care. Have fun. Because if you're that weak that this is going to bother you when I'm having this conversation, but I haven't named the name that nobody knows about, who cares? That's on you, not me. But I'll say this. I think when everybody got back into this hobby for the first little bit, everything was great. We've heard a lot of people talk about this. Everything was great. Everything was great. Okay. I think we've gotten back to normal now, and people are going to look out for number one. That's your hobby friends. Hopefully they're your hobby friends. I'm pretty confident in the people that I trust right now. Not many. I'm not naming names, but there's not many that won't try to take advantage of you in some way, shape, or form. Okay? Not like complete criminal, but just like, hey, if this can benefit me and this person's a little overeager, maybe that'll work out for me. There are a handful of people that'll tell you to slow down, maybe take time. That person knows who he is. Thank you for always doing that. I think those are good people. Those are good people. But there's going to be people out there that are going to try to take advantage of you being excited about cards, maybe being a novice, whatever it may be. You need to be careful. You need to tread lightly. You need to take care of yourself first. I don't want to hear about hobby etiquette. Take care of yourself first. As long as it's not criminal activity, take care of yourself first. If you're in a private deal and it doesn't work, it's okay to say, you know what, I'm really sorry. Okay? That's okay. And I just think these my wife said something to me that really kind of hit me. She goes, have you ever met any of these people in person? You have all these friends you've had for 25 years in person here. Have you met any of these people? Like, no, I haven't actually. That's interesting to say. Like, why would you put that much trust in somebody you've never even met? And I'm not trying to throw down on hobby relationships. And, Drake, you're a great guy. Dustin's one of my favorite people. There's a lot of great people out there. I can name them all off. I don't want to leave anybody off and hurt anybody's feelings, because there are a lot of good people out there that I've got to know. But how well do we really know each other? I think these are important conversations to be having. I think we love to go, yeah, he's my brother. Hey, what's going on? You're a friend. Are you? Are you really? Or is it like this established collector that we all respect? They'll take advantage of you. I just dealt with that other situation. They're going to look out for themselves. That's it. So, no, I don't. I'm very, very skeptical now. I'm skeptical about spending serious money in this space right now. Don't know if I want to do it. Like I said earlier, why do I even have the PMG? It's a really cool looking card. Don't get me wrong. It's cool to own something that's like popular and cool, but does it matter to me as much? I'm taking a page out of Cage's book here. I know you're listening to this episode, Cage, because I'm mad. People are going to want to probably listen to this because I'm mad, because people just like drama. Well, you're getting it. But does that card matter to me? I don't know. It's cool. But do I want to have a ton of money sunk into something? I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of questions right now. I do. I'll be honest. I have a lot of questions. But this virtue signaling, standing on a soapbox, hobby etiquette crap is dumb. Outside of a few select rules, I believe this should be seen as like, you just don't do these things, like not paying for your bids, not stealing from people. I mean, I think we could probably come up with that list fairly easily. Common sense will dictate it, right? Don't be a piece of crap human being. Usually start there and go down from there. And you can pretty much assimilate it pretty easily. That's it, Drake. That's what I have to say. I've went on for a little bit. I'm off my soapbox now. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think, your points around hobby etiquette are very good. I don't, you've shared a little bit of the details with me and, things like that. I don't know enough of the details to sit here and, I certainly don't want to start taking sides and, that whole sort of thing. I certainly know you're a great guy, Dennis, and I, don't think you would screw anybody over. But, one of the things that maybe, I thought about as we were discussing it is like when is it okay and not okay to back out of a deal? At what point when you're making a private deal, is it like, because you think about, you transact things outside the hobby that are considered private deals. And at certain points, it's like, okay, you've reached that, edge of the cliff, you've gone over the cliff, and you can't really turn back without a recourse. So, the point, or it's kind of transitions to a great topic of like, when is it okay or not okay to back out of a deal? Like, at what point is like the deal good and you just need to go through with it, even if it's painful, right? So, I shared this with you, and I think I've shared before. At one point I had a 5-figure card, and someone agreed to buy it privately. And he asked if he could make several payments on the card, right? Because it was the biggest card he'd ever bought before, and that whole sort of thing. And I said, sure, that's not a problem with me. I'm like, I always try to be easy and flexible and things like that. And he had made a couple payments towards the card, and I was actually going to, I had started using that money, which kind of goes a little bit against what you said, right? But I had gotten the money in my account, and so I had used some of that money to pay towards another card. And then, he gives me a message and just says, hey, man, I hate to do this, but I've fallen on some hard times and I can't purchase a card now and I need my money back, right? And so it kind of puts you in that weird, tricky situation of like, what your brain's telling you to do versus what your heart's telling you to do, right? And both things are tugging at you one direction or the other. So, in this situation, he actually agreed that, put me in a hard situation, and we agreed on a number where I gave him most of his money back. He allowed me to keep a portion of it, just for the trouble and things like that. But it was still just it puts you as a seller, and and I'm in certain cases, it puts someone as a buyer in real tricky situations around things like that. So I think, like what you said, it's great from an auction standpoint. You really don't have to put up with any of that, and I think that's why when I go to sell a card, typically, I may try to sell privately to people that I really know or think I really know. And if nothing really works out, then it gets shipped off for consignment, through Nick or I was going to say, or somebody like that, but through Nick with PWCC, because I know, he's going to treat me well. I know that the cards are going to get paid for. I'm not going to have to put up with any of the stuff. Right. And so,
Right.
yeah. And so that's kind of the path that I take, because I find that, just like you said, I mean, when you start going through with, especially Facebook groups and people you don't know and all that kind of stuff, things can get real weird all of a sudden. And, and I try to be as easy to work with and deal with and straightforward as I can. And, you find in the hobby that a lot of other people, instead of taking like the road less traveled from point A to point B, they're all, the road most traveled from point A to point B. They zigzag through the forest and down the ravine and up the trees and that whole sort of thing to get the deal done. And, and more times than not, it ends up being way more complex than it needs to be. So,
right. I think once money's exchanged hands, I think you're pretty much on your way. And I feel like that wouldn't be the right time to back out. No, there's an extreme situation. We've all seen all those back out stories on eBay when my son bought the card crap. Those are obviously ridiculous. But I think, and trust me, I've had a ton of people when I was selling on eBay that didn't pay. That was very frustrating. Don't get me wrong. The bid stuff is really annoying. But once and I've had someone pay for a card, and then, I decided not to, and then I just refunded them the money. No big deal. Moved on. See, that's why it's so bizarre to me that we can't make just like, and you're gonna throw out, oh, I see you on YouTube, I see your cards on Instagram, so this is gonna look good for you if you don't do this. If you don't do it's just the audacity. It's like, man, I wish I can meet these people in person. These are some of these people I want to meet in person. I'm like, would you do this to my face? Like, would we be doing these types of things to each other's faces? I don't know if we would. I think we're hiding behind a computer. We're hiding behind a phone. This person doesn't have I'm out here and I put myself out here, so that's what happens. But guess what? Why am I caring so much about what some, 50 or 45-year-old man thinks? Who freaking cares? Yeah. And another thing. So nothing against all you 40. I'm 43, so maybe I'm making fun of the older men around here. But PWCC and some of these eBay, do you think they're going to protect you all the time? Yeah, no way. I've heard stories about how they don't. I had a conversation with somebody else, because there's people that go out and broker private sales. They're probably fine depending on who they are. You just got to trust your source. But PWCC didn't stand behind that Barry Sanders PMG. That was not authentic, and that person took a bath in that. They didn't take care of them, from what I've heard. Like, there's it makes the hobby not, it makes me wonder, man. I just wonder. With the stuff that goes on, it just makes me wonder. That's all.
Yeah.
My kids are upstairs running around being loud, so hopefully that's not coming through on the mic, but I can't control that because I have 4 kids, and I come down here and do this. I do this for free. I don't get paid. I haven't gotten paid a single cent to do this. I've received nothing. I'm not complaining. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy doing this with Drake. I really, really respect and love Dustin. He's a great guy. Like I've told Drake and Dustin, if we lived around each other, we'd hang out. We get along. We're very like-minded. But there are just some very frustrating people in this hobby. And some of these rules are stupid. And I think they're anyway. So I'm not going to keep beating the dead horse on this. And I don't really, here's the thing. Comment below, say what you want to say. I don't care what you think. This is what I think. It is what it is. We can all agree to disagree on this stuff, but I think it's stupid. And I know personally that I haven't, made someone feel like they needed to follow through within 3 hours on a transaction. I would never make someone send me a card that they bought that they bought after I bought it because someone pulled a scam on me. I'm not doing that to anybody. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. And why we feel we have to do that is beyond me. But there are real criminals in this hobby, real criminals doing really shady stuff. And the reason I'm not using names is because I don't want to get in the names business, because I already posted about how I don't think we should be gaslighting anybody anyway. That's just not my style. I don't feel like, what's that doing? I'm going to try to handle that stuff privately. I'm not going to tell everybody what I'm doing. I just think we love to talk about stuff too much, probably. I'm probably guilty of it too. But take care of yourself, man. Take care of number one. Take care of your family. Take care of your kids, your wife. Don't worry about Bob in North Dakota and what he thinks of you in some hobby group. Who cares?
Yep.
Sorry, Drake.
All good, man. Things that make you go, right? And I think it's just a good reminder to hobby your own way. Be careful who you surround yourself with, right? Surround yourself with people who are the most like you, or and I think that's true for any relationships and things like that. So I certainly think that's a great point to end on, and certainly appreciate the the discussion around this. I think we had some good topics and good things to talk about today, and so why don't you wrap us up, Dennis?
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for everybody for listening to me rant on about that for a bit. I needed to get that off my chest. I was glad I was able to do that. Thank you, Drake, for being willing to sit here and listen to it and contributing to it. Thank you, Dustin, for allowing the platform to have it be said. And I will finish with, there are a lot of great people in this hobby. There are a lot of wonderful people that have helped me enjoy the hobby space. People I still enjoy the hobby space with. I just think that we need to reevaluate our hobby relationships. And we need to reevaluate who we truly trust, who we're putting that trust into, and think about the counsel we're getting and whether it's really what we should be doing. And how well do you know these people? Reevaluate that. I think we just need to be careful. And I think we've been, growing it up a lot the past few years, but we need to be mindful of how well do we know everybody that we're dealing with. Keep stuff on the third-party channels if you can, even though they're probably not as safe as we all love them to be, which is like I said, a whole other conversation. But I think that these are good things to be thinking about and talking about. I just feel like I've been too nice. I've been a nice guy for too long. And I don't know if I want to be that nice guy anymore, because I feel like being the nice guy gets you taken advantage of. And professionally, I handle myself differently, and it works out fine. And in this space, I think I'm just too worried about what all these people were thinking. And that was my bad. I shouldn't have done that. I should have been more vigilant and circled my own wagons around myself versus worrying about all that other stuff. So if there's anything you can take away from this episode, is just kind of do that inventory yourself. Think about who you're surrounding yourself with, who you're associating with. Do you really trust these people? Think about that. And if you do have some great people in your corner, appreciate them. Make sure they know you appreciate them. Good people. Like I appreciate Drake. I appreciate Dustin and a handful of other people. I appreciate them. They're good people. Jeremy Lee's a good person. I keep going. I don't want to leave people out. There's a lot of great people. Adam, and I can just go on and on. There's a lot of great people out there. And I talk to you, so you know. But appreciate those that are good and honest with you. But the rest of it, just be mindful that not everyone has best interest at heart. This has been another episode of the Pick Six podcast. We are now on Spotify, and you're going to see this episode launched this Saturday, which should be the 5th, 6th, 7th, if I'm not forward. 6th. The 6th. The 6th. The 6th. It's the birthday of my twins. It's going to be a great day. You're all going to probably be pissed off at me, but I'm not going to care because it's their birthday, and I won't care. So, but we still appreciate you watching and interacting down below. Yeah, let it rip, man. If you agree with me, you don't agree with me, whatever, that's fine. Let it rip. You can find our, we'll be launched on Spotify as well. Hopefully you're checking that out. Thank you, Drake, for being a part of this. And yeah, go hobby your way, man. Have fun, take care, and we'll see you on the other side of it.